use the Wi-Fi once in a while and make sure that they actually can make a cell phone call from those Petenwell parks. If you ever took your cell phone out to Petenwell Park and try to make a phone call without Wi-Fi, it's pretty darn tough. So most phones right now, AT&T, T-Mobile, other services, most of the phone calls that you make right now are over the Wi-Fi. You're going to try to make emergency calls from some areas up and down Z and Petenwell Park and those areas up and down Castle Rock. You're not gonna be able to connect phone calls without good internet and wireless service. So it's just the way it is on those things. So I think there's a lot more conjecture going into this debate than there needs to be. I think where we were with the vote last time, I think the vote would probably end up about the same besides the one person who requested to revisit it. And I don't think anything's changed so much dramatically. It's going to change my vote. I'll be voting yes to authorize these funds. This is one of the main uses for the ARPA dollars before the federal government expanded it for everybody to use everything. So broadband and wireless internet was one of the main uses for the ARPA funds to begin with. So I'll be voting yes, and I encourage everybody else to do so. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Paler and then Supervisor Skabarski before. We'll try to get everybody on the first round before we go back to second comments. So.
I just have a quick question. We have $75,000 of ARPA money here. Later on in our agenda, there's another $200,000 of ARPA money for a splash pad. And if I remember my figures, I don't think there's $275,000 of funds that have not been allotted for something already. I don't think there's that much. And secondly, a comment, I'll be glad when we get rid of this ARPA money.
Director Patterson, you're on the line. I don't know if you heard that last question about the funds available and the ARPA funds.
Yep, Mr. Chair. So if this resolution goes through, we'll have we've got it pulled up right now. We'd have about $18,000 in ARPA funds remaining. This resolution and the splash pad resolution. And then also one other thing I wanted to point out was that we did also spend about $1.2 million with Marquette Adams for their Town of Quincy and Town of Adams fiber expansion projects.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Skabarski.
Yeah, I just need some clarification. I abstained the first time. Am I allowed to vote yea or nay this time?
Yes, you can.
Okay, anybody else that hasn't questioned yet? I mean, wait a minute, we're not motion for reconsideration yet, right?
Yeah, that's the motion for
Okay.
reconsideration.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go around if second comments, Supervisor Dozel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I appreciate the point on tourism, doesn't fall on deaf ears. I believe that was part of my discussion in the original reading of this. And I do understand that is a big portion of the funds that come into the county. However, as board members and as government officials, I believe we have an opportunity to spend funds appropriately. And funding a for-profit business doesn't seem like a good use of our money. When I look at the way that this information was put together, operational costs of $2,800 per park, that's again with one estimate. They put a monthly client support of $1 per site. My estimates, if we have 90 days of camping, 600 campsites, that's $54,000 at $1 per campsite increase. If we increase the fee to say $2 per campsite, we could easily pay for the system, pay for the maintenance, have extra, and provide that service to the people that are using it at free for no additional charge, and it would still be available to the community. So my objection to this overall isn't around whether or not it's a good thing for the community or a good thing for tourism in the county. It's how poorly this whole thing was put together in the first place. And it does not explain until this week that this month, that there was a concern about security or safety or anything along those lines. Those things were added after the fact. It is also not spelled out in more than 2 sentences in the entire presentation that was prepared for us this evening. And again, there are much more cost-effective security systems available to us that will do the job for a lot less money. So the issue I have with this is I would like us to do the work to put together the proposal for the project that we want, that will provide the services we need at a rate that is fair for the county and is not an excessive amount of funds being transferred. That's why I'm objecting to continuing with this discussion.
Supervisor Mullins.
Can we bring up option 2 again, please? It says, these, after an install camera, these become Adams County property, would use the wireless system and have no recurring monthly costs. I don't understand where's the monthly cost or the annual cost of 2,600? If it says in the sentence would use the wireless system and have no,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Can I answer
Your
His
monthly
question.
cost, yes.
his question? So option 2 is us providing the infrastructure, paying for all the poles and adding the internet into the park. And then allowing the for-profit business to charge the campers a fee for using the internet. So
well, I understood that, but then there was a comment that
But that was under option 1, not under option 2. The
Very good.
$2,800 or whatever it was, yeah. I think we clarified that, so.
very good.
Supervisor Shapey, then Supervisor Wimmer.
I'm just curious, if Starlink was ever discussed?
Any of the county managers wanna? In the first, up in the,
I believe we considered that. We looked at their website. I haven't developed a quote for them, but to be able to handle that much data over, it would require multiple dishes in the park, because those hook to satellites. So it would be difficult to do.
so, yes.
So it would be difficult to provide Wi-Fi, but you'd still have your security cams? I guess it doesn't seem like those two combine. And did Frontier ever give us any bids? I know they're not on the good list, but anyways.
I don't think that, yeah. I don't think it's fiber. You find Supervisor Shapey,
Yeah, I
Manager King, you wanted to?
Oh, just to answer your question, I mean, I don't have the specifics about how, a wireless system would work with Starlink. I couldn't answer that question. I guess would take more work, but, and, we did consider different companies, like we said, up above there. Marquette Adams would not be able to take care of Peenwell. Starlink, like I said, we took an early look, but hadn't pursued it that far. Frontier doesn't have any fiber optic in front of the parks yet. So that, I guess, answers some of those questions, I think.
Doesn't seem
Uh,
very thorough.
Supervisor Wimmer and then Supervisor Krug.
Yeah, in answer to Supervisor Krug's statement about we're going to be getting Wi-Fi and trying to remind us about tourism. Tourism is a very fluid situation. And I'll guarantee you that there's a time that's already here and coming. People do not want all the amenities they have in the city. They're coming out here because they're wanting to find peace, quiet, hiking, canoeing, things to do other than listen to their do their Wi-Fi thing and play on their cell phones. It's coming, it's here. We've got to adapt to that. We need to create a situation where nature is still available to the people that visit here. Thank you.
Supervisor Krug.
So just on the Starlink thing, I use Starlink over in Delwood here and it's great. It's a great service. But if you're in a county park and you got trees, Starlink's not gonna work. Those things need to have open skies to the satellite to get connections. You're probably not gonna get good upload and download speeds with Starlink in county parks. So I get where they're coming from with that. And on the tourism internet use, and if we want to put our heads in the sand and say that people do not use their devices, I don't know how to describe it other to people, but that's just how it goes. Yes, people are gonna go hike and bike and use the lakes and everything else all day long, all as much as we want, and they will, and they do. And we do it too when we're down here every day doing all those things. End of the night, they're on the Wi-Fi. They're watching their Netflix, they're watching whatever else at the end of the night. Those are things that draw people to our communities. Those are things that we have to be able to adapt to. Those are things that are bringing people back from the cities, working their remote jobs because they can come back and have 1 gig service from Solaris up and down all of Highway Z already from Northern Bay up through Rome, all the way up into Rapids. Those are things that are bringing tons of people back to this area. So it's just, I don't know how to describe it any better than that, Mr. Chair. That's just the way the world works right now.
Supervisor Postowski and then Supervisor Pease.
Can we just get this over with and hit no button, please?
Supervisor Scott Pease.
I want to call for the question.
Okay. There's a second. Okay, motion to call for the question. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Gilner, so, okay. So we're voting on the call for the question, or? Yeah. So we probably don't have that set up, so all in favor signify by saying aye and raise of hands. Okay. Those opposed signify by saying nay and raise of hands.
Nay, Pozdolski.
Okay, so that was just the call for the question, just so you know. So you wanted to end debate? Yeah. Okay, okay. That's how it was. Okay, so that ended debate. So now we're voting on the motion for Oh.
Call for question.
Who voted no then? You, okay. Supervisor Pozdolski, who voted no? Supervisor Pozdolski and Supervisor McLaughlin voted no to the call question? And Hagerstorf, okay. Okay, the motion passes, so please vote on the motion for reconsideration.
Total votes 20, 12 yes, 8 no. Wimmer, SPs, Podolsky, Shapey, Dozel, Egersdorf, RPs, McLaughlin.
Okay. So the motion's what? Oh, it passes. Oh, it needs a simple majority. So now we have the motion on the floor. Correct?
Correct.
So do you want to have more discussion? No. Okay. Yes. Okay, Now, please vote on the motion. Well, just 1 second.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
would you clarify to make sure everyone knows what they're voting on right now?
Okay, now we have the motion back on the floor for the resolution for the ARPA funds. So voting yes is going to allow the ARPA funds to be spent for the county parks. Voting no means no. Yes. So the prior vote was reconsideration, and in the discussion for reconsideration, we could have a discussion like we did. We didn't have to limit it to just a reconsideration question, so. So now we're voting on the motion to go forward. And so I guess vote would be approving it, and vote would be not approving it again, so. Okay, everybody clear? No, just simple majority. It's just like voting on it for the first time, really. Okay. Okay, please vote when you're ready. Hold on 1 second. We might have to do this again.
Okay, try it now.
Is that the right one? Resolution 4? Yep, okay. Okay.
Total votes 20, 12 yes, 8 no.
Resolution number 14 is adopted. We'll move on to reports and presentations. We have the Sheriff's Department Annual Report. Look for a motion to accept that report. Supervisor Rick P., second by Supervisor Edwards. Any discussion or questions? And I know the department heads would gladly answer questions afterwards if we want to limit some discussion on them. So Supervisor Krug?
Did have just a question that kind of related to the sheriff's report on ATVs. I know it's a hot discussion here, and I had noticed something in there talking about the number of accidents over the course of time. And I also saw a comment in there about how most of those accidents were on private property. So I was just curious if the sheriff might be able to help answer kind of one of the burning questions we have is how many of those 24 accidents I think we had in Adams County, how many of those were on county trunk roads?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So we did not have any accidents on any Adams County highways this year.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Supervisor Pozdowski?
Mr. Chair, my question is for Sheriff York. Sheriff York, my understanding is that there's a team that responds to those individuals that are experiencing a mental health crisis. I read through this and I did not see anything that identifies a crisis response team. I have been having trouble identifying this team or even locating their existence, but can you help me please identify this team within the Sheriff's Department that is also that works with in tandem Health and Human Services when they respond to somebody that is having a mental health crisis. So can you tell me where this is in this report or how this team even operates or how they're activated? Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the sheriff's office does not have any team such as that.
You don't have a crisis response team that works with Health and Human Services? I was told, it's my understanding that sheriffs respond with social workers in the event that somebody's having a mental health crisis.
Speak in your mic.
Yes. please.
So I understand that's social workers and psychiatrists respond with the sheriff's department when somebody's experiencing a mental health crisis. Where is this team? Please, can you please give me a straight, clear answer, please, on this? They take it out for the budget. Where is it at?
If the sheriff's office does not have one, if we respond to such incident, we can contact a contracted service that assists us through mental health situations.
How do you even identify that somebody having a mental health crisis? How is that even presented or identified? Sheriff,
Yeah, well,
help me with this, please.
I know the Health and Human Services report on there is on there too, so hopefully.
Right?
And
So-
Director Olson is going
I've been
to,
told this by Kelly several times too, and I'd like a clear answer from somebody, please, here, because I'm not been able to identify this team. And it's a major concern to myself and the community that we don't have a crisis response team here in Adams County to handle people having a mental health crisis.
Director Olson, please.
Where they at?
So we have a mobile response team, mobile crisis response. We respond after law enforcement goes to the scene if someone is threatening to commit suicide or harm themselves. Law enforcement is usually on the scene. If it's an incident in which there's reason to believe that they may need to be hospitalized, or we can possibly safety plan. Law enforcement makes a phone call to Northwest Connections. They operate our 24/7, 365-day-a-year call center. Northwest Connections does a complete crisis assessment over the phone. During that assessment, if the individual is unable to communicate, if there are issues or something that they're not feeling, they can get all the information during that assessment, then our mobile crisis team will be sent out. Right now, it is an individual who goes and responds to that incident. Law enforcement's usually there. If the social worker or its case manager, could be a therapist, is able to safety plan, law enforcement will leave, they'll work out the safety plan, and then our staff follow up the next business day with that issue.
I appreciate that, Kelly. While I got you up here, how many incidences did you have
Where-
of
where-
adult mental
Supervisor-
health crisis?
Supervisor Podolsky, we're talking about the Sheriff's Department report, not the
I'll get her on the next.
Supervisor Shapey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just curious if Sheriff York could detail the kinds of incidents for the ATV, UTV, private property problems. Was drinking involved? Were injuries? What details were there?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I guess I don't have that exact data in front of me tonight. I can tell you that in review of these accidents, there's varying conditions of accidents, none of which were fatality related. So these are just reports where people call in of an accident, ATV in nature, to law enforcement. So.
Thank you, Sheriff York.
Okay. Seeing no further questions. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay, Pozdolski.
Noted. The Sheriff's Department annual report is accepted. Next, we'll have the Health and Human Services annual report. Motion to accept. Supervisor Edwards, second by Supervisor Carlson. Any questions? Supervisor Pozdolski and then Supervisor Shapey.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for Kelly. Kelly, I've been trying to identify this for a while now. How many adult crisis patients did you handle or did we handle here in Adams County last year? I have not been able to find that in the last meetings, Health and Human Services. So can you please tell me?
Sure, if you look at page 17 of our annual report, you will see that we have it broken out by adults. Page 16 is broken out by youth, and we had 350 crisis contacts. So those would be crisis individuals that we served in
Those
2022.
all adults there, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Where did, so when this is initiated, where do those patients go then? I mean, there's a mobile response, but can you tell us how that even, where they go?
So on a mobile crisis.
When the sheriff's department apprehends somebody, they take their benefits away, isn't that right? So how does, I mean, when the sheriff department gets involved, they're already possibly being charged criminally. So what stops that process when they're already apprehended and they take their benefits away? What happens? I mean, how are they getting help if they're suffering a mental health crisis?
I don't know if that really pertains to the report that's in here.
Well, it does, because there's people, individuals, a lot of them slipping through the cracks here, and I'm trying to figure out why. Thank you.
Okay, well, Supervisor Shapey and then Supervisor Scott Pease
Thank you.
and
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Wimmer.
I was just curious if we had seen a significant decrease in truancy numbers.
Truancy numbers, I don't think are in this annual report. I'm looking at the sheriff. Obviously, we have a lot of cross collaboration. I know he just reported those numbers out at Law Enforcement Task Force. I believe our numbers are fairly consistent. They were higher during the COVID year. If you would like that specific information, we could get that for you. But I would want to break it out if you were looking at juvenile referrals for truancy or if you were looking at citation referrals.
We hired another person to help with truancy, did we not?
We contracted with a corporation to work with the community outreach program, and we did see success with that program.
How do you measure the success?
By days of attendance and seeing change in the family or individual circumstance.
Okay, I have more questions.
Yeah.
Can I? Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. Find your own driver. Are volunteers compensated in any way? I know it said in kind.
So the in-kind is that the state provides a hourly rate that we can claim as in-kind. So there's no payment for the volunteer hours. Depending on what they're doing for volunteering, there may be volunteer mileage reimbursement.
Okay, thank you. How much are intoxicated driver assessments, the cost of those?
I believe $350.
And that's on the person?
Yes, they are required to pay that.
350. Will the proposed centralized accounting for the county lessen the number of staff positions listed under the HHS Fiscal Services Division? And I don't know if that's a Kelly Olson or a county manager question.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
that has not been determined yet. We're doing this through attrition. So as vacancies occur.
I thought that was the whole point, that we were centralizing everything and,
Through attrition.
okay. And then on page 56, assist families to identify strengths and strategies to improve barriers. Don't we want to take down barriers? Don't we want to minimize barriers? What kind of barriers are we saying are good in this?
Those are the perceived barriers of the clients. We want to improve what they perceive as barriers. Does that make sense?
Yes, is it working?
That's one of the recommendations. I think you're looking at the second bullet point from the bottom. That these are recommendations that we want to continue to help families identify their strengths and strategies.
Last one.
Okay.
How do I find out about the motivational interviewing practices?
Come talk to me. I totally, it's my jam. So come talk to me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Supervisor Scott Pease.
Seeing as we're getting some comments here. Kelly, I'm a parent of a special needs child, and I just want to thank you that you guys have went above and beyond for my child, and now he's an adult. Always been seamless, always been good. Thank you.
Supervisor Wimmer, did you have a?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kelly, I need further clarification on this volunteer drivers. You said maybe they get reimbursed for mileage. Can you clarify this whole thing? Number one, how many volunteers do you have?
I don't want to give an exact number and be incorrect, but I believe that our number has decreased. At one point, we were down to 4 volunteers.
Okay, And number two, why can you not be more pinpoint what you do for these volunteers? You said maybe they get mileage. What's the criteria whether they get mileage or not?
It would depend on what program they're doing, what service they're providing, whether they're doing a medical ride, are they assisting someone getting groceries? Are they providing Meals on Wheels as a volunteer? We use volunteers in a variety of different ways, in a variety of different programs.
Okay. I would say that, and not all, because there's a great need for volunteerism. But I would think that if you want to keep volunteers, you better have some kind of in-kind payment. And I don't care if it's medical or to go get groceries. You know, seniors need that. And we should have a clear guide on what we're going to do for these people. And it might just bring up our volunteer list. They should be compensated. They're taking their time to help the county, and we should be reciprocating with that. And I would like to see more clarification in that program so that we can get more volunteers, because Adams County is one of the worst. I'm sorry for helping seniors. And I don't think we need to take it over as a government project, but we do need to do things to attract volunteers and keep them. Thank you.
Supervisor Edwards.
Mr. Chairman, I believe being a volunteer means not being paid. Otherwise, it's a paid position, and you already know our budget constraints.
I'm well aware of the budget constraint. We just passed a huge budget. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay, Pozdolski.
So nays by Supervisor Pozdolski and Supervisor Wimmer. Okay, the Health and Human Services Annual Report is approved. Derek Smith included his report. He made plans to be here last week, but then we changed the meeting, so not available. So if you have any questions, I guess if you're want to put them forth, the county manager can make note and we can make sure that he answers those in his next report. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to the county manager's report. So, Manager Hager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening. I'm going to start out the report with appreciations. So special recognition is given to Jane Lentz Jervis for seeking and being awarded a grant under special circumstances. And I kind of go through it there in that little paragraph. Congratulations to Jane Lentz Jervis, and thank you for a job well done. Next, I want to talk about NACO graduates. The county participates in the NACO, which is National Association of Counties. It's a leadership academy. The goal is to have all of our department heads and managers take advantage of this program. And so our most recent graduates, I'll just name them off here: Chris Jefferson, Dustin Grant, Kyle Johnson, Lyanna Glavin, Melissa Sager, Rich Huck. So congratulations to the NACO graduates and thank you for a job well done. Page 2, capital projects. So here's just a few updates. The Veterans Memorial. I looked at Supervisor Grabarski. Next month. And under the roof, the bids are now due on Monday, July 10th at 11 a.m. Fairgrounds, another bid process going on there. Bids are due June 30th at noon. County Highway M, the utility relocation continues. I just got an update tonight that July 17th is the start date for the county G through the First Avenue. And under happenings, we have solid waste clean sweep. This is another successful event this year. Underneath that, I talk on I touch on the discontinuation of solid waste subscription-based services. And it goes on to page 3. In the middle of the page there, the Adams County Visionary Community Network. We now have 4 or 5 subgroups set up. And I'm just going to name them off here, and it's not no particular order, but we do have the signature project being named first here. The housing development to include multifamily units. That's the signature project. Railroad Bridge Project with Spurs. Expand broadband, improve municipal downtown, workforce expansion. Student Government Day, another successful event I wanted to share with you that happened on May 19th, which brings us now onto page 4. It's amazing how time flies. And as we said our farewell to our sales students, Megan Schultz and Hannah Eggersdorf. Underneath that, I speak about the splash pad presentation to the City of Adams that did take place on May 15th. The splash pad resolution is on the agenda today or tonight. Down beneath that is the human resources functions. This area is being restructured, and I touch on that. Under what's on the horizon, the reconfiguration of administration offices consideration. So we did have a building project that had 4 phases. Phase 1 is now complete. And I am going to be touching on this Friday at the building committee to kind of redo phase 2, which is the administration side. And I kind of touch on that there. On to page 5. Library closed, just given a notice there, that June 29th through July 2nd. The highway department has a lot of seal coating going on currently. Moving on to page 6. Middle of the page there, meeting with the sheriff to discuss changing shifts for dispatch from 8-hour shifts to 12-hour shifts. This is in hopes to kind of retain and attract new talent in here. We also are in discussions about the current vacancy there, the fiscal manager position. Matter of fact, we met today on that. Below, I attended the economic development meeting and I have some call outs there. And then I also attended my quarterly meeting with Jamie Giebert, the Rome administrator, and I have some call outs there as well. Are there any questions on the report?
Just a question, the building meeting is on Thursday, not Friday.
Oops. I
Just
stand
in case
corrected.
anybody was going to show up and don't come on Friday.
No, it's
Supervisor
Friday.
Dozel?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. The question I have is regarding the discontinuation of solid waste subscription-based service. In the county manager's report, it says that there were 2 closed session meetings. The first, in all of us were invited. My objection to the phrasing of the paragraph, the assumption of the reader is that all of us on the county board had a say in the changes that were made to subscription-based services. Majority of us did not have a say in subscription-based services. This was handled by the 2 committees and was not pushed forward to the whole committee, even though in all preceding meetings on YouTube, the recordings show that everyone was under the impression that it would require the full board's vote to get approval to discontinue subscription-based services. And while I'm on the topic, Corp Council, do we know what statute we use to make the determination as to whether or not or why it wasn't required to go to the full county board for approval?
Looking at the county board rules under solid waste committee. Duties and responsibilities says duties and responsibilities include but are not limited to the following. General policy making responsibility for the operations of the solid waste department.
Can you give me a legal definition of general?
There's not a legal definition of general.
My impression of general would be if we changed a hydraulic fuel carrier or a gas provider or something along those lines, not discontinuing service to the entire county. And if it wasn't required, why did it go before the whole board and all of the preceding discussions and recorded board meetings? It was clearly stated that it had to be approved by the full board, but this was approved at council level or committee level. It was not approved at the county board. Why was that notated in every single preceding board meeting or solid waste meeting that it would take full board approval for this decision to be made.
I guess I didn't look at all those meetings. So I don't know exactly what you're saying about that. It would take all full board approval. I don't know specifically what you're talking about. So without knowing the specifics, I can't answer your question.
I've watched all the broadcasts. They're there for you. You can watch them at your leisure. Can we get in writing your description as to how you came to the determination that this qualified as general?
I can do that also. If you wouldn't mind putting in writing to me your feeling why it needed to go to the county board, if you have statutes or rules, that certainly would be helpful for me to look at too. But if you don't, I can put in writing why I came to this decision. Sure.
Sure, I pointed out to you in previous discussion that we can't change the zoning of one portion of one parcel of one taxpayer in the county without full board approval. But somehow we can change trash collection service for the entire county at the whim of one
Well,
committee.
you're talking apples and oranges there. So
No,
you're
sir.
Two different things. So
Supervisor Scott Pease.
In any of those meetings, did you not think that you were invited? I mean, every single meeting I've ever seen, anybody can go to those meetings. Not only board members, but people from the community.
So yes,
What makes you think that you weren't invited? I mean,
I attended many of those meetings, and especially once I was found out that the decision had been made without the full county board. My attendance increased in solid waste. However, even at my attendance in those meetings, I'm able to ask questions and things of that nature, but I'm not allowed to vote in any of those meetings, as I'm not part of that committee.
but your input would have been there, correct?
I'm not allowed to cast a vote. And my input is there. You can listen to the videos as well.
Supervisor Shapey.
Actually, they can't because it's in closed session. But if you were there and you heard what was going on in closed session, I'm sure you can remember. Could things have been handled differently where the personnel aspect could have been broken out from the collection aspect? So that the district supervisors as a whole would have been able to have some kind of input that our constituents would have really appreciated.
who's that question to?
That would be to you, Corp Counsel Hayes, because I think you're the one that grouped that together.
That's not a decision that I make. I only give the legal conclusion. So that's,
So maybe you could answer who decided that that was in the best interest of the county.
I can't answer that question.
Well, someone must have combined them. Right?
I-
From
But-
my understanding, the only reason that this was in closed session and never been notified of the public before the hammer was bashed down was because of that combination. We were dealing with personnel and contract matters. So I'm asking you, who's the one that made that determination? Because you basically slit everybody's throats. Whoever that is, I don't know. I'm asking.
Right, we requested that and we talked about it and I requested a determination on that and Corp Council made that. And I know I've talked to Wisconsin Counties Association and they agreed that it didn't have to be a full county board decision. When we added those services, it wasn't a full county board decision. That was not a full county board decision when we added those services. That was just a committee and the committee structure is the committee makes some of those decisions and you have to, rely on your committee structure.
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, did it take a full board vote to approve spending $80,000 on an assessment as to how to make the solid waste profitable?
I think it had to come to the full county board because those funds were not available in the budget at that time. I think that's why it came forward as a resolution. That was not in the budget at that time, if I'm. And I don't have that right in front of me, but that's my recollection.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chair, to address the question
Yes.
about splitting it between the personnel and contract matters, it both separated would still require a closed session, whether it was contract discussions or personnel, both would require the close.
The,
Closed
this,
session.
the stopping of curbside pickup for residential is that under, maybe I'm misunderstanding. That's not under contract matters?
It was a vendor contract. There was a vendor contract involved in this.
In the closure, in the
Mhm.
ceasing of the services.
There was consideration given to a current vendor. Yes.
I still think it was handled very poorly, but as do many.
Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll move on to committee minutes. Any discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to ordinances. When the clerk is ready, we'll move on to ordinance number 13.
Ordinance 13, 2023 amendment to all-terrain utility terrain vehicles and Route 18, 2021, recommended for enactment by the Highway Committee this 8th day of June, 2023. Carlson, Bork, McLaughlin, Pease, Egersdorf.
Motion and act by Supervisor Carlson, second by Supervisor Krug. So we have ordinance number 13 on the floor. Any discussion or questions? Supervisor Wimmer?
Mr. Chair, is this an amended resolution? So,
It's amendment to the ordinance.
okay, so, what is different in this than what we had prior to this?
Yeah, it's opening up another road. Right there. Those are the road sections it's opening up. So it's adding number 28 there.
Okay, that's the only thing that's changed on this.
Correct.
Wasn't, but as far as the townships making the application, that has not changed. Is that correct?
I think that's not correct. Right, that hasn't changed.
Thank you.
Right. Supervisor Scott Pease?
I'd like the commissioner to speak on why he disapproved it.
Highway Commissioner?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just, yeah. Calling him to the floor, so. He's going to the mic.
Good evening. So I reviewed the application based on the language in the ordinance. As noted on the application, that's the reason for my denial.
Any clarification on that?
So I guess I'm making a statement here. If everyone who votes yes on this, they're going against what the ordinance says. I got one more comment if I can.
Okay.
please. And if
Yes.
nobody else, in Rome, the question on the ballot was voted down by 260 votes. Now all of a sudden, we're gonna go against the wishes of that area and vote on a road to open in that area?
Okay. Supervisor Krug?
So as we got to the point where we had the discussion of putting this on the ballot for everybody, I was one that said, hey, let's put it on the ballot, let our constituents decide. For the most part, this is passed through the county. And if my town supervisors and town administrator did not put forward the application, I wouldn't support it. If this is something they need to answer to constituents of Rome, that's fine. But I trust their judgment. Our new town board chair and our administrator had put forth letters with the police chief, all in tandem saying this is a safe, secure, and necessary route. So I will trust the local government make the decision. I'll be voting yes to support their application.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, please vote on ordinance number 13, was it? Ordinance number 13.
Total votes 20, 13 yes, 7 no. Noes, Paler, Wimmer, SPs, Podolsky, Shapey, RPs, Gabarsky.
Ordinance number 13 is enacted. When the clerk is ready, we'll move on to ordinance number 14.
Ordinance 14, 2023. Ordinance amending Adams County operation of landfill ordinance number 15, 2010. Recommended for enactment by the Adams County Solid Waste Committee on this 27th day of June, 2023. Gilner, Bork, Mullins, Carlson, Paler.
Motion to enact by Supervisor Carlson, second by Supervisor Gilner. We have ordinance number 14 on the floor. Any discussion or questions? Supervisor Shapey?
Just to repeat, this does not affect private property owners taking their landfill refuse or recyclables to the landfill in a certain route, right? I believe that was Charlie Coon said that that is the case, but if he could repeat that at
Yes.
the,
Director, please.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this has nothing to actually do with the routes of travel. It's just, it's all kind of in the same paragraph. So this does not have anything to do with routes of travel for private people bringing their waste in.
okay, I just needed to hear it again. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Dozel?
Mr. Chair, I just have to make an observation. Same committee coming to the county board for this, but not to cancel service. That's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Wimmer?
I believe, I'm gonna, ditto that, comment because, it wasn't important enough to change a whole county policy on how we do business, but all of a sudden, oh, now we can go along with this whole thing and let's just vote this in. Now we're involved. Now we're important. It's a travesty to see how this whole landfill thing took place. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments or questions on ordinance number 14, please vote.
Total votes 20, 15 yes, 5 no. Wimmer, Podolsky, Dozel, Egersdorf, Gabarsky.
Ordinance number 14, amendment to that ordinance is adopted or is enacted. When the clerk is ready, we'll move on to resolution number 22.
Resolution number 22, 2023. Resolution to authorize using American Rescue Plan Act funds to assist the city of Adams in building a splash pad, introduced by the Admin Finance Committee. Recommended for adoption by the Admin Finance Committee this 9th day of June, 2023. West, Paler, Pease, Gabarsky, SPs.
Motion adopted by Supervisor Edwards, second by Supervisor Scott Pease. We have resolution number 22 on the floor. Any discussion or questions? Supervisor Mullins and then Supervisor Posdowski.
With this money from the county, if approved, is it a done deal? Or does it still have to go through part of the city for funding to have this done? And secondly, is there a location where this is planned at?
County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to read what I have prepared for it. In an effort to bolster sustainability and assist our local municipality to be in a strong position, the county wants to help the city of Adams move forward with purpose and vibrancy, creating a place residents fondly call home. And so I did a presentation on May 15th to the city council, and it was majority approval of us moving forward with committing on, here, the 200,000. Now, there was some talk about them potentially having ARPA funds, but I was contacted by Jason that that hasn't happened yet. So there is a potential match. Not gonna commit to it, but there could be match funds coming from the city. There also could be outreach programs trying to get more funding for this project. So as far as locking it in to move forward, that's what will happen today. So tomorrow, it's kind of like boots on the ground, moving forward to working out the parameters of this entire thing, which would include, if I can focus your attention to the last three whereas statements on the resolution. One of the purposes for outdoor space parks is to improve spaces in areas that have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, and can include improving park space that will benefit the health and wellness of the community. And whereas, in addition to the financial commitment, there will be a time commitment provided by the county manager, administrative coordinator, and any other county staff needed to assist in moving the project forward. And whereas the county plans to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the city of Adams, so that each has expectations well-defined as to who is responsible for certain aspects of the project development. One final note is that this resolution fits well into our strategic plan at the county and attracting talent. And within that category as well, addressing the pleasure component of amenities. And I did provide an attachment and drew your attention to the fourth to the bottom whereas statement, 2.22 in that statement where it says that our funds can be used for that purpose.
But the question, I think Supervisor Mowens
Mhm.
needs answered. If we make this commitment, it doesn't move it forward until they get the full commitment, correct?
So, Mr. Chair, so the next step is getting a memorandum of understanding, working with Corporation Council, meeting with the city to come up with who's doing what. I have volunteered my time. I believe Cody has some comments too about how this fits a strategic plan for Health and Human Services as well. So there's a lot of boxes being checked. Yes, there's a lot more work to be done to kind of move this forward, but at least at this point, we have committed the funds and we know that we can kind of move forward into whatever the next steps are.
Is there a location picked?
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, Mr. Chair, what I had in my presentation that I did to them, which is available to you on our website, by the way, I kind of focused in on the Burt Morris Park. I don't know if that's feasible, but at least that's an area that I identified in my process.
Okay, Supervisor McLaughlin, then Supervisor Paler, and then Supervisor Wimmer.
$200,000, excuse the pun, isn't gonna make much of a splash, but, well, it's not, that isn't gonna go very far. So my question is, is there a time limit on? Okay, so the 200,000 gets earmarked for that. Is there a time limit, since they're at this point in time, from what I understood, that there's not even so much as $1 of matching funds? So I'm assuming they're gonna sit on it and try to garner some more funds to the pool before they even begin. That'd be fair to say.
Mr. Chair. So with the ARPA funds, we have until 2024 to commit the funds. We have until 2026 to spend the funds. So there's plenty of time right now to plan. I know that there is extreme interest from the city. They keep reaching out to me. Hey, Cynthia, I don't want you to lose momentum. And I'm like, I have to wait for the board to make the decision tonight to kind of move forward with any other, whatever the next steps are. So, anyway, that?
Yeah, that takes
Okay.
care of it. I just wanted to make a point.
Supervisor Paler.
Okay. My question is, we put up the 200,000 and the city does not come up with matching funds. Are we gonna be coming back to the budget here and asking for the balance of the money that the county takes full ownership of this? And then who's gonna pick up all the maintenance on this? These things aren't maintenance free.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to touch on the maintenance. So in the research, the maintenance ranged from 10,000 to 25,000 a year. And so what happened is I got with Kyle Patterson, our finance director, and we put numbers together based on the volume of gallons used in Rome. Okay, which you can imagine that would be a high number. It was around 3 million gallons. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not. So then we took the rate of the city of Adams utility, and that just for the cost of the water itself was around $7,000 a year. So there's other things like winterizing. It all depends on the type of system they want. If it's recirculated water, there's more of a maintenance cost to that because it has to have a certain pH, just like a pool would. But if they go with a drain away system, which is what most of them have, I mean, Rome has that where it drains away into like a green space. That's much cheaper, easier to maintain. So winterizing is a cost, and that's also a person dedicated to do the winterizing. But I'm assured by both Rome and Mauston that that is not a lot of maintenance. There's just not a lot of maintenance. There's risk of vandalism, there's all of that, but it's just not going on. Can we have vandalism here? Sure. But no one has said to me, wow, this was a mistake. It was always this is the best decision we've made. And now that we've made it, we would not be able to go back in time and not do it for the citizens. It is a very welcomed thing and it does promote tourism. It keeps dollars here locally. You know, there are families that were going to Mauston and up in Rome, but more particularly out of our county in Mauston, because there's restaurants there that are family friendly. So why not keep those families here when there's ball games going on?
Well, basically, I got a very long answer
Oh,
that
boy.
says, yes, the county is gonna take ownership of this.
Mr. Chair? No, this is the city's project. We're committing the 20,000. I'm also committing my time. Golly. You know what I meant. We're committing the 200,000 but I'm also committing some time. So I'm gonna put my time into it, which is a bid process. If we have to get an engineer, if we have to go out and get, a plan put together, all of that, I'm willing to kind of help them through because that's one concern that came across when I was talking with their public works is that, they don't have a lot of people to do maintenance around here. So I said, I'm willing to do what I can. And I think there's other people here that work for the county that would be willing to volunteer as well in this process.
Supervisor Wimmern and Supervisor Postowski, and then we'll go right down the line. How's that?
Administrator Haggard, you have been on this project ever since I've been on this board. And I cannot understand it because you work for the county and you have been pushing this thing for ever since I remember. And I have never seen anybody from the city of Adams ever come before this board or before a committee and say, yeah, we think this is a great thing. We would like to see this happen. But yet you keep doing their bidding. And a couple of things, other towns raise money for these splash pads. Westfield, for instance, raised money for their splash pads through private funds. You might be robbing the community of an opportunity to give money towards this thing. And by your going in there and you say, well, I'm giving my free time to this project. Are you actually putting on paper your time with the county and your time working for the city of Adams?
Mr. Chair?
Say that you
Yes.
were.
Yeah, so trying to think where the levels of questions there. All right, so am I taking away from outsourcing? So I know that Lions Club is one that did Mauston, right? So we are going to be reaching out to clubs, like-minded districts like the school district, mid-states. We're going to be reaching out to the Gunderson. Cody, do you maybe want to mention on some grants because right, it was mentioned that 200,000 isn't going to go very far. these days, it seems like just the concrete is going to be very expensive. But then you have all of these features that you have to choose from also. So there are some granting opportunities, and Cody was there with me that night that we did this presentation. And Cody, do you want to maybe mention what you have?
Yeah, Cody, Health Officer. I just wanted to reach out quick regarding the grants and public health strategic plan. We did a 5-year study and community health assessment regarding Adams County. The biggest things that popped up, number 1 and number 2 is mental health and physical activity. Studies and research show that physical activity and mental health go hand in hand. And a majority of Americans don't engage in the recommended amount of physical activity. And Adams County really is no different comparing Wisconsin's data to Adams County. So with regards of having a splash pad here and just comparing some of the state data, 18% of adults age 20 or older are diagnosed with diabetes. Wisconsin's rate is 10%. 14% of adults in Adams County only have 14 or more days of poor physical health per month. Wisconsin's at 11%. So some of this research coming back from our community health assessment, you can see where Adams County is falling short. So preparing this assessment and this 5-year tool that we collaborated with, we had community action teams that initiated assessments, and we formed these groups. So we had a mental health group, a physical activity group, and then a recruitment and retention work group. And out of all 3 of those groups, a splash pad was brought up to improve physical activity and mental health in the county. And then just to touch base on the grant aspect as we segue into that, we have had conversations around the YMCA partnering with us, Family Health, along with Gunderson as well for community involvement. So it's just not the county helping out with that.
Supervisor Postowski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Cynthia, I appreciate your efforts in attempting to create somewhere for people to enjoy physical outdoor activities. Believe me, it's very important. But my question would be, we have the beaches, Castle Rock, for example. Usually around midsummer, they close them. This never used to be the case. You go back 10, 15 years ago, those beaches used to be awesome. Hundreds of people out there. Now they close them midsummer because of pollution, E. coli, things like that, whatever. Wouldn't our resources and funds be better well spent looking into why these beaches, lakes are polluted and turning green, unattractive to our tourists, not swimmable? I mean, it's a bit of a slap in the face, really, when we have perfectly good beaches like we used to have. And then now we got to close them midsummer, and instead we got to go to a splash pad. I mean, I appreciate it, like I said, but we have perfectly good beaches that we should be looking at. Thank you.
Supervisor Shapey.
Just wanted to find out if people were on board with water being a precious natural resource and 3 million gallons of water. I don't know the size splash pad that would entail. Is this an annual amount of water? This seems outrageous, a waste of water. California, I'm sure, would be very interested in acquiring the water that's going to be dumped off. How does this provide health and wellness to the disabled in our community? Splash pads are notoriously loud. There's a lot of movement. We have a large population of disabled in our community. Also, I don't think they're handicap accessible. Transmission of germs. Are we bleaching the water? Is the pH what's going to kill? I mean, we're saying that this is for the health and safety, and COVID has pushed us towards this as a wonderful solution. But I think one of the biggest things that I took away from COVID was spreading germs. So, and that's all I have to say.
And if there's any answers to there, if the public, Cody wants to answer anything on those comments.
I can just touch base on the blue-green algae. They're formed by the nature and the conditions of the weather. So as you guys have kind of seen with Adams County, we haven't gotten much rain lately with that high heat. And depending on the winds, depending on which lake, those blooms just kind of pop up and blow towards the beaches. So regarding a splash pad and a beach, kind of two different instances there. So
Mr. Chair, may I address some of those questions?
Yes.
Okay, the water usage, 3 million, that's Rome. So you can imagine that the Rome area would have a high volume usage because of tourism. And so when we're budgeting or anticipating or looking at some kind of expense, we always want to do worst case scenario. So we figured we were safe. When I say we, I'm talking about the finance director and I. And so the water usage, 3 million, that's Rome usage. The pads are roughly about 3,500 square feet. And addressing the lakes, so splash pads are a great alternative to when lakes actually close. It's an alternative place for them to go and have an amenity. That's all I've got there.
And I know there's some second comments. We'll go to Supervisor Dozel, then Supervisor Scott Pease before we go on to seconds. So if you got additional questions, just save them. And so go ahead, Supervisor Dozel.
Just a couple of quick questions. County Chair. I feel your pain with struggling with words right now. The concern I have is water supply. So we're talking about an extreme amount of water, essentially a fire hydrant running all day long, or while people are present. I get it. Is there any concern with the city's water supply to be able to maintain the water needed for the community in addition to this fire hydrant pumping the whole time? And I've got a part, do you want to know?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then part two is, it's my understanding that we are hauling the leachate out of the solid waste to a different county to handle it because our wastewater treatment plant can't handle processing that product. So will the additional wastewater from this be a burden that our wastewater treatment plant can't handle? Does that make sense? Like we're maxed out. So is this going to cause problems with that? And then lastly, on a somewhat lighthearted note, will there be Wi-Fi available at the park?
Mr. Chair, can I answer his question quick? Okay.
Maybe you have additional comments. Okay.
Mr. Chair. So regarding the water, they do have an option to do the recycling of the water. So that is a water savings. And this next answer kind of addresses your concern about the leche hauling and or water supply. So we're part of this process is getting a civil engineer in here. And I don't have those answers, is it going to be a drain on their system? I don't know, but the civil engineer is going to have those answers. So as far as committing the 200,000, if this is not feasible, it stops, right? And then, okay. And I don't know about the Wi-Fi, but there's going to be security cameras. And lights.
You wanted to answer the leachate question?
Oh.
No. Solid Waste Director.
Yeah, so in terms of the leachate with the city, we're not taking it out of county because of volume. It's because of the city is actually set up for way more than what we produce or what the city, I think we just had a meeting with the city and they said they can expand to 2-3 times as much as they could handle now. The leachate issue that we are experiencing is the composition of the leachate, not the volume of what we're bringing in. So they just don't have anything. That part of it shouldn't be for what the city can handle. Their system is very much oversized for even what they're taking in right now.
Supervisor Scott Pease then.
I'm gonna speak out in support of this, and I'm gonna thank you, Cynthia, for putting this all together. You did a good presentation. This is for the kids, guys. Come on, we've heard enough. We've given ARPA funds to just about everybody but the children. get together here and make this a positive thing. That's it. I'm like,
Supervisor Edwards and then Supervisor Rick Pease. We'll go for the people that haven't spoke yet, so, and come around for the second round, so.
Okay.
Supervisor
First
Edwards.
of all, Wi-Fi at Brickmore's Port Art is readily available through the library system, of which this county did not pay anything for. Also, we keep talking about tourism, and tourism also affects the splash pad. I have spoke with many people in the community who are totally in favor of this. At the last city council meeting that I attended, they talked about seeking out donations in order to help fund at least matching funds or whatever else it'll take.
Rick Pease, Supervisor Rick Pease.
I was at the presentation Cynthia had, and the excitement from the city council alone was enough for me to say, this is a good idea. And yeah, we're putting up the majority of money to begin with, but I believe they will seek to help as much as they can. Also, I'm with Scott on the fact that all we hear about the kids is tonight was truancy, mental health, things like that. This is a chance for us to bring something to the village and the city to keep our kids here, to keep our kids active and give them a chance to use the splash pad. We don't even know if it's going to get there, but I will be right with Cynthia helping it to get there. I think that there'll be many partners along the way to help get this to the finish line.
Did those guys in the back, did you guys talk yet? I've lost track here. Supervisor Krug and then Supervisor McLaughlin.
For the first time in my political life, a debate has changed my opinion. I walked in here tonight looking at this one saying, absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to do this. But something that my good friend in the front row said is, I cannot wait for this ARPA money to be gone. I'm voting yes, so we can be done with this ARPA stuff. This is just put a nail in the coffin, vote yes on this thing. We don't have to talk about ARPA anymore because we're going to have all the money spent, right? It's been ridiculous. It's time to be done with this stuff. It is federal phony money that it's just got to be allocated and put somewhere, guys. We just get done with this stuff and be done.
Can we add the remaining $18,000 to the total then?
Supervisor McLaughlin. Is your mic on, please?
I'll be brief. I just have a semi-related question. Whatever did happen to the pool, that was in the city of Adams, was it or not? I'm just
We don't want to go
curious.
there, yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, what happens that was so bad that it just got left?
That was in a
abandoned?
building that couldn't support the structure and it got all corroded. So, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So-
I was just curious because I know it sat empty for years and years and
Yeah.
years. Thank you.
The second comment, Supervisor Wimmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Administrator Haggard. We're all for the kids. There's no question about it. It's how this is taking place. We're putting the cart before the horse. There should be a committee in the city that should already be out there garnishing funds for this project. You're robbing people of their opportunity to make this happen by you jumping in. And number two, again, the city should be the pinpoint of this, the focal point, not you. You have county business to take care of. You can assist them, but they should head this thing. And I'd like to see you spend more time on county issues and less time on the city of Adams, because we have a whole county here that needs attention. And again, it is for the kids, but start with the fundraising from the city and the county and get the city of Adams involved from the start. I have seen no presentations that they've made. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
No, I'm going to comment, please. The last time I checked, the city of Adams is right in the middle of the county of Adams. The city of Adams is in the county. So this is a county. part of Cynthia's responsibilities are to coordinate and work with the municipalities inside the county. Not only the city, but also all the townships. And she has meetings with the townships too. So it's collaboration amongst those. And if we don't reach out and lead there first, I mean, we should be the leader because we're the bigger organization than the cities and all the townships. So I see that as her responsibility to help lead some of those. So sorry, I couldn't, you know.
Yes, she is responsible to them, but I think they need to take the lead, not us. We're there to support.
Well, sometimes
If
we
they
hit,
don't-
sometimes we have to be the leaders.
Well, no, we don't. They have good leaders in Adams.
Yeah.
That's one reason I live in this county and I want to see a little more of it.
Supervisor Pozdowski, second comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was just getting back to the blue-green algae plumes, and there was a comment on that. And it's to do with the heat and the weather. We've always had heat. We've always had weather. What in the last 10 to 15 years, everybody laughs, but they closed these beaches down and they never were closed 15 years ago. Now they close them in the middle of summer every year. There's something that's changing this. Something's happening. Something's polluting our lakes, obviously. And we need to
And-
figure out why.
And noted, but that isn't part of the splash pad.
We don't have beaches. I mean, wouldn't it be better to have a beach?
Yeah. Supervisor
Call
Shapey.
the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No.
So I did not hear how the splash pad was going to benefit handicapped, autism, loudness, wheelchair accessibility.
And I let the public health officer. I don't, if you know the designs of it, if it is handicap accessible and
And maybe there's a side thing to this that I'm unaware of. So I'm just asking.
county health officer.
Yeah, we don't know the signs of this, but I mean, our goal is equity for all. So when it comes to this project, we'll make sure it's accessible for as many of those that we can make it possible for.
Supervisor Paler.
Like to call the question. We've had enough debate.
Okay, motion to call a question. Do I have a second? Okay, second by Supervisor Borg. So voice vote on calling the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. And those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay. Please vote on resolution number 22. Where's your vote?
Total votes 20, 15 yes with the correction of RPs. 6 no, Wimmer, Podolsky. 5 no, sorry. Wimmer, Podolsky, Shapey, Dozel, Egersdorf, RPs. Oops, minus RPs, sorry.
Resolution number 22 is adopted. When the clerk is ready, we'll move on to resolution number 23.
Resolution number 23, 2023, resolution to establish an interest-bearing custodial fund for deposit and administration of funds for assisting Adams County residents with out-of-pocket prescription drug costs, introduced by the Admin and Finance Committee, recommended for adoption by the Admin and Finance Committee this 9th day of June, 2023. West, Paler, RPs, Gaberski, SPs.
Motion to adopt by Supervisor Churko, second by Supervisor Mullins. Resolution number 23 is on the floor. Supervisor McLaughlin.
Thank you. To pay the out-of-pocket costs, is there, unless I didn't see it or read it correctly, is there a requirement of what steps an applicant would have to go through before they got payment out of pocket or for reimbursement of their prescription expenses? I guess what I'm thinking is, even for people with insurance, oftentimes they're, and Good RX, I don't think is the only one anymore that you can go to and still end up getting your stuff cheaper than through your insurance even.
Director Olson?
So I think your question was, are you able to access funds even if you have insurance?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, shouldn't somebody be doing the most they can to get to lessen the out of pocket as much as they can? And I refer to Good RX because I've used that myself and I have prescription coverage and oftentimes I've gotten my prescription for a lesser out of pocket cost than if I'd have just got it through the insurance.
Yes, part of the process would be that the pharmacy would work with the individual to make sure that they are accessing all of the services, coupons, refunds, whatever programs are available to them. This would be a last resort. And it would be for an emergency situation. It's not intended to be a long-term fix. It is a short-term solution, and it would never be on tax levy. The funds will be expended by the donated funds from Gunderson as well as Jared Aberderis through the Sal Foundation. So it would never fall on tax levy. If funds were not available, they would not be available.
Yeah, Supervisor Rick Pease and then Supervisor Moen.
One of the things Clay talked about when this was in front of our committee was this also gives us another avenue to talk to people that are in financial straits and possibly give us a way to get them to Health and Human Services to help them with some of their problems and some of the things going on. So this is another avenue for us to reach out and help the public as much as it is to pay for their prescription drugs. And as you can see, it's only $200 annually. It's not monthly or weekly. So I think it would help us identify some people that may be able to get some help from our people that really need the help.
Supervisor Moens.
So I'm going to continue that question. You said financially strapped, or I didn't know the word that followed that. So is there a way that this is going to be used where a person is not financially able to do it? Do they have to prove that, or is that a follow-up that's done with?
So a part of it is going to be through the screening with the pharmacy for whatever pharmacy is willing to work with this program. It would be open to any Adams County resident, regardless of what pharmacy they used, as long as it was willing to work with this program. As far as determining need, that will be a conversation between the pharmacist or the pharm tech and the person filling out the referral form. We will have a referral form. We have a policy. Determining need is challenging because sometimes there are people who fall into a situation where their out-of-pocket expense is really significant. The reason this came forward to us is we were not looking to drum up business. We were not looking to do that. But Gunderson reached out to us because they were seeing more and more people struggling to be able to pay for their prescription, whether it was the out-of-pocket expense or their deductible or copay, seeing more and more people struggling, at times only being able to get a portion of their medication filled, and they were looking to help fill this need.
Supervisor Shapey.
I'm just curious. It says funds are generally limited to 200 per person annually and considered a one-time only support. So which is it? Is it 200 per person annually and then they can come back again the next year? Or is it a one-time only support?
So this was an issue that we had a lot of conversation around. It was settled on $200 per calendar year. If there was an exigent circumstance, there in our policy, we did talk about coming together to make a decision if it needed to be over $200. However, the amount of money that we have set aside at this point is small. That $200 is going to go very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, this was through Gunderson reaching out to Health and Human Services to distribute the money because then there's no conflict of interest there, so. Supervisor Wimmer?
I have a proposal for this. Gunderson is a multi-billion dollar maybe organization for profit. Maybe they would consider matching that, lowering their drug prices also. Because what we're doing is we're funding a for-profit business.
Yeah.
You're putting your seal of approval on.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, please vote on resolution number 23.
Total votes 20, 16 yes, 4 no. Baylor, Wimmer, Podolsky, Graberski.
Resolution number 23 is adopted. When the clerk is ready, we'll move on to resolution number 24.
Resolution 24, 2023, resolution to amend date of the annual meeting introduced by John West, Adams County Board Supervisor, 14th District, recommended for adoption by John West this 23rd day of June, 2023.
Motion to adopt by Supervisor Moen, second by Supervisor Grabarski. So we have resolution number 24 on the floor. Any discussion or questions? So moving that forward to the Thursday, we're just going to touch the budget stuff is what the intention is. And then we'll also have a meeting on the following Tuesday. So if we can't get the budget passed, that allows a little bit of additional time to bring it, those corrections made and brought back on Tuesday. But hopefully the budget moves forward and is adopted on Thursday, but just in case. Okay. And this requires a 2/3 vote to move forward because it's we're changing the board rules, going away from the board rules and the statute. So, okay. Any questions? Supervisor Dozal?
I just want to clarify. I mean, this is a benefit to us because of last year, we had to make a decision on the final hour. So I appreciate the fact that you've made this adjustment to push it forward.
Was it 6 o'clock?
No, 9, I think. Well, let me just.
Doesn't say it right. No, it doesn't have a time on here, so it just says the date. So we'll have to determine the time. I mean, and that'll be consideration. We can vote on that at a different time than when we set the next meeting. We know it'll be on that day. So think about it and think if it should be, normally it's at 9 o'clock, but do we want to have it at 5 or 6 o'clock so more of the public can join?
Can I make a motion for 6 p.m.?
Yeah, can we amend that?
To amend it?
Okay. Motion to amend to be 6 p.m. Motion and a second to amend the resolution to be on November 9th at 6 p.m. Any discussion or questions on the amendment? Voice vote? Okay. So seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hands. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay. The amendment passes. Any other discussion on the amended motion? Okay. Ready? Seeing none, please vote. Oh, they already voted.
Total votes 20. Yes.
Okay, resolution number 24 is adopted. We have no denials or petitions. Do I have a motion to approve the claims as previously read? Supervisor Turco, second by Supervisor Carrillo. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Claims are approved as read. Clerk, please read per diem and mileage.
Churko 116.92, Paler 97.14, Gilner 107.75, Wimmer 107.75, SP 75, Podolsky 95.96, Shape 87.45, Dozel 84.04, Trevelio 81.25, Egersdorf 77.62, Bork 92.03, Edwards 75, RP 75, West 83.75, Moans 82.86, Gabarsky 88.10, Carlson 93.94, Baker 101.20, and McLaughlin 101.20. Total 1,723.36.
I have a motion to approve. Supervisor Bork, second by Supervisor Wimmer. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Per diem miles are approved.
Motion for the county clerk to correct any and all errors and read back at the next meeting if so requested.
Second by Supervisor Churko. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those against signify by saying nay. Motion is approved. Next meeting date, July. Oh, yes.
I just have a question. Sorry, everybody. I know you're packing up. Rule 15, time and place of meetings. We're about to set the next meeting date, correct? So I
Correct.
think this is where I can ask this. If it's not, please tell me.
Okay.
We have two time frames in our rules. 9 and 6, 9:30 and 6. I don't know the exacts, but one is 6. Could you tell the supervisors why 6 PM was chosen in the past?
It was 7 PM when I first started.
Okay,
Then it
but
got,
why? What, I mean,
why was it 7 PM?
why was it 7? Why is it 6?
I don't know why it was 7, and then we changed it to 6 because it was, it really went late, you know, so we compromised back then to 6, and that's why it's been 6. It's been 6 ever since.
Is it for our abilities or is it for the public's abilities to attend? I
It's-
guess is where
it's
I'm,
hopefully for both.
for both.
You're
Okay.
right, and that, I mean, I know a lot of county boards have daytime meetings,
You mean
but I-
committee? Okay.
but
Other-
I know Wapaka County has daytime meetings, and there's at 9, 10 o'clock, and how many public do they get at those? I mean, at least, it's at night, and and that's why they always had, I don't know why they always had the budget meeting during the day,
Okay.
you know?
I know there's history. I just
Yeah.
am not aware of it.
Yeah, it was
So-
really late when I first started, and it would be midnight at sometimes, but board meetings are a lot longer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But it's July 20th at 6 o'clock then. So I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all. What? Oh, July 18th. I'm looking at June, I guess. My calendar won't move.